Good afternoon, folks. Robert Chappell, Executive Editor of Madison365 with your daily update for Monday, July 25th. I hope you had a nice weekend. I certainly did. We're going to hit some COVID numbers first, and then we'll get into some local news. Basically, all COVID numbers are moving in the wrong direction, which has been a common theme in the past 2 years. We think things are getting better, and then they're not. Now, all of this is with a big grain of salt, right? That we are not seeing an increase in fatalities, right? We saw this during the Omicron surge, which was, by far the worst in terms of cases. Back in January, we were at like 18,000 cases a day, which meant we were doing a lot of testing to find those cases. Right? We're not doing as much testing anymore. But also we saw, back in the beta and delta days of 2020 and 2021, we were seeing like 1% fatality rate, which is very high for a virus. And now we're seeing a fatality rate that is much lower than that is more akin to like influenza. So when you see all these case numbers are very high, that's not as dire a finding as it was 2 years ago, or even a year and a half ago, or even a year ago for that matter. All that said, COVID is still a tremendously dangerous disease. Something like either 1 in 10 or 1 in 20, somewhere between that, 5%, 10%, experience significant symptoms after a month or more, which can really impact a person's life and a person's family and a person's livelihood, etc. So all that is to say, we are now at 1,757 new cases per day in the past 7 days. That's almost 100 more than on Friday. Okay, we're not seeing the straight upward line that we saw in January, but that's a sharp increase over the course of a weekend. Our 7-day average of positive tests is now 14.6%. That's partly due to a lack of negative tests in the data, because a lot of people who suspect they might have been exposed or suspect they might have symptoms are testing at home, and they test negative, and then that's it, and they just go about their lives, which is great, right? That's very good. We like that happens. That, unfortunately, the downside of that, the side effect of that, is that the state does not, and the county health departments do not get those negative tests into their data, so the positive test rate is elevated slightly. I still think, even with all those home tests happening, I think we could push this back down to in the 5% range. But it's very high right now because there's a lot of BA.5 variant. There's a lot of COVID just spreading around the community right now. Hospitalizations also on the rise. 464 people currently hospitalized. That's 11 more than yesterday. That's 36 more, a little bit, about a 7-ish% increase in the past week. 54 in the ICU. Now that's down a little bit since yesterday, but that's another 10% increase in the past week. Now we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 counties, 15, 16 counties, that are in the high range where the CDC recommends indoor masking. It's not mandated anywhere. It's not going to be mandated anywhere, but CDC recommends if you live in Kenosha, Milwaukee, Rock, Greene, Dane, Columbia, Iowa, Richland, Grant County, Brown County, Door County, Eau Claire County, Rusk, Sawyer, and Barron County are all in the high community level range, meaning a combination of new cases and hospitalizations means that there's a lot of COVID around there and it's relatively severe. So if you're in any of those counties, mask up indoors is the recommendation. Nobody's mandating it. Mask up if you want to, don't if you don't want to. Be kind to each other either way. Now, as I mentioned, the fatalities remain very low. The 7-day average of new fatalities is just 2. That's very low in terms of for this number of cases. Now, again, as a lagging indicator, we will see deaths rise in about 3 or 4 weeks if the current situation continues. But if it only gets to 4 or 5, or even 8 or 9, that's still a very, very low percentage in terms of the rate of infected people who die. Okay, on that note, that is some exciting stuff. We're going to take a short pause, and we're going to be back with some more local and state news right after this. Don't go away. And before we get to the news, I have to mention it is Metcalf's Monday. Metcalf's is a fourth generation, family owned and operated market with stores in Madison at Hilldale and behind the West Town Mall, and in Wauwatosa at 68th and State. They work to support local farmers and producers with over 3,500 local products on their shelves. And you can order for pickup or delivery anytime at shopmetcalfs.com. And given the current COVID numbers, you might want to do that. That might not be the worst idea in the world. All right, a few local news notes here. The BIPOC Birders Club of Wisconsin, that's a Black Indigenous People of Color birders group, is celebrating their 1-year anniversary this month. And its co-founders Dexter Patterson and Dr. Jeff Galligan, along with their newer Milwaukee area coordinator Rita Flores Wachowski, spoke with our reporter Isaac Trussoni, and he has a Q&A with them, including their plans for expansion into northern Wisconsin, as well as how you can get involved in being outdoors, learning all about Wisconsin birds, having a good time out and about if you're a person of color in that group. Also, this wasn't planned. This is just sort of coincidental. When a group like that has its anniversary or another occasion, they'll do like several different press appearances. And we did our interview and our Q&A that Isaac did, and we published this morning. But also, those same 3 people were on this morning's episode of Black Oxygen. So if you are wherever you get your podcasts, go to just search Black Oxygen, and you can listen to that. It's a fantastic conversation about being outdoors, about mental health, about being connected, So give that a listen. It's very good. Also in the news today, big news in the United States Senate race. On the left is County Executive Tom Nelson out of Outagamie County, who was until today running for United States Senate, running for the Democratic nomination. Today he dropped out of the race, so say he suspended his campaign, and has given his endorsement to Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes. Barnes has been the front runner for most of this race. It's a crowded primary. There are, I think, 8 declared candidates. Nelson had been sort of sitting in 4th place behind Barnes and Milwaukee Bucks executive Alex Lasry and Wisconsin State Treasurer Sarah Godlewski. Lasry and Godlewski both are largely self-funding their campaigns. They both got a lot of wealth, and they're investing in those Senate campaigns. Nelson, in his endorsement of Barnes, said he's endorsing the only other candidate who's not trying to buy himself a Senate seat. Those were his words. He called Barnes a good progressive and said the progressive voice is consolidated behind Mandela Barnes. Barnes, as I said, has been the front runner. However, Alex Lasry particularly has closed the gap in recent polling. And that is a big, the Nelson endorsement. Nelson's been polling around 5 or 6%. So if he can get his 5 or 6% of voters to move to Barnes, that's a big boost for Barnes with only two weeks left in the campaign. The primary election takes place August 9th. Then whoever wins that primary will take on Ron Johnson, the incumbent, in November. And finally today, coming up late September, it's the YWCA Racial Justice Summit. You can register now. Again, that's September 28th, 29th, and 30th. The theme this year is Weaving Our Pasts, Present, and Emergent Futures for Racial Justice and Co-Liberation. We are going to be a media sponsor of this event. We're very proud to do that. We're very happy to work with the YWCA. It's a fantastic organization working against racism here in Madison. And that's always it's always a fantastic event for a couple of days in Madison. Keynote speakers will include Fania Davis. I'm going to interview her next week, as well as many others. So take a look at that. And there's the registration link is on the website right now at Madison365.org. All right, that's the news I have for you today. I hope you have a wonderful Monday evening, and we'll be back tomorrow with more news for you from Madison365.org. Have a great night.
This is 365 Media.